why didn't you get a coach? Why did you take so long, John? I will tell you this, nobody wanted the job. But we're sitting in the same box in the Club World Cup, and this was the most tense game. In the most tense moment of the game, we were talking. I did not know how big of a club Botafogo was. And they said, well, John, don't you think it was really bad planning what happened this year? Well, it's not bad planning to lose your coach when your coach blows up his personal life right in the middle of the season, decides he wants to go, makes up a story that he wants to stay when you know he's already going, and you've lost your coach even before the season ends, before the championship happened. We knew we were going to lose him. I couldn't say it at the time we were going through it. Like, why didn't you get a coach? Why did you take so long, John? Why did it take so long to get a coach? I will tell you this, nobody wanted the job. And I couldn't say it publicly because that would have been damaging to Botafogo, the club, the brand, our spirit, our sense of pride. But people know Brazil, right? Nobody wants to take that job right after you've won Brazil, won Copa Libertadores, the best year in 120 years. That is a high-risk job, especially in Brazil. Because look at what we've done. We've turned desperation of our fans into greed. And I like that they expect to win now. Somebody asked me the other day, internally in a meeting, they said, John, we need to lower the expectations of our fans. I'm like, no, we don't. I couldn't persuade anybody on the project. One after another, Tite, Tata Martino, Rafa Benitez, like you name it. The first one, my first choice, only because he so wanted the job. He said yes to the job. His Andre Jardine up in Mexico wanted to come back to Brazil. Well, then he says, well, I never wanted the job. That's because his owner shows up in Mexico, gives them a bunch of money, and he says, I'm good here in Mexico, right? I couldn't get anybody to take the job. Many of the players that you love from the championship year, they want to leave the next year because they say, hey, I've done as much as I can possibly do here in Brazil at Botafogo. I'm at the end of my career. I need to go make money in Qatar. Or I'm getting towards my last opportunity to go to Europe, my last chance to go to Europe. I need to go to Europe. I've given everything I can for Botafogo. I've won a championship. I need to take care of my family. And then there's a lack of motivation, a lack of energy. Like some of the same players that won that championship for us the year before, if you looked at their numbers running, they're running at a level of 85%. What they were running just the year before when we won the championship. Everybody's motivation is down. Well, I'd say that people need to understand that Botafogo, the club, has been doing well financially. And our revenues have increased from 20 million US dollars when we started this thing in 2022 to well over 200 million US dollars this year. It'll be closer to maybe 240 million US dollars. The operating cash flow, the operating profit of the organization is also very, very high. But the fight that people see played out in court was about authorizing new methods of bringing money in. And people got confused. They said, well, John did that in the name of Eagle Cayman. That's his company. Well, that's not true. It has never been true. Eagle Cayman, which is called Eagle Football Group in the Cayman Islands, it was formed in 2024 for all of the interests of Eagle to be consolidated into that one Cayman entity for the initial public offering on the New York Stock Exchange. So when I was creating these new instruments to raise money for Botafogo, I did it in the name of Eagle Football Group in the Cayman Islands, which the lawyers for Aries and the lawyers for the new independent director, they didn't even understand. So it was all an incredible misunderstanding about the mechanisms by which Botafogo needs to be able to act independently to continue to grow. I think, look, my goal is that Eagle stay together in its current ecosystem because this multi-club relationship has worked really well. for Botafogo. We won a championship by being able to promise a pathway to Europe to players like Thiago Almada and Lucas Perry and Luis Enrique and Adrielson. And so I like the Eagle ecosystem. We have some growing pains internally within our shareholder group because of the challenges we've had in different parts of the world. And we have considered a divorce scenario where, like, I buy Botafogo with partners and take it away from Eagle, but we've also worked very hard on maybe some better ideas to stay together. So, I know fans want an answer to these things very quickly because that's the way we are. We don't yet know if we're going to stay together or if Botafogo is going to spin off. But I can tell you the club's doing well, and a lot of people are offering us capital through Eagle to stay together, and other people are offering us capital to split off. But nobody should worry about us paying the bills at Botafogo because Eagle is still the 90% owner. Somebody like Alessandro Brito will look at a player and he sees good first touch. He sees that his body's open. He sees that he's good technical on the turn, picks his head up, sees his targets, knows where he is on the field. Like, that's the way a scout will break down a player, because Brito has an incredible eye, incredible knowledge of football. Whereas I look at that as components of time. I don't care if he's the smartest player or the most physically gifted player. I care that he receives, turns, distributes in less time than anybody else with great statistical certainty on the completion of the pass and the outcome. So maybe he looks at it with his eyes and I look at it with the math, and these two worlds come together, and the master of time is often the best midfielder. That's what we look for in Botafogo, and we view it with our eyes and we view it in the numbers, and those worlds come together and we make good decisions based on that. But what we also do is we trust each other across our different clubs, because one set of eyes can be fooled. Another set of eyes that looks at that same player from a different perspective. Well, yeah, he may be good in Brazil, but would he be good in France? He may be good in Brazil, but would he be good in England? Well, if the guy in Brazil loves him, and the guy in France loves him, and the guy in England loves him, and the guy in Belgium loves him, there's no way they're all four wrong. It's not possible, right? Now, if they get together and they analyze the player together on the same set of variables, well, all four could be wrong. But it's very low probability that four different perspectives with very different ways of looking at a player in different environments and different needs, that they all believe this player is solid, and that it's very unlikely that they're all going to be wrong. Sometimes I have to recruit the player. Sometimes I don't pick the player at all. And it matters when the owner will call the family, or it matters that I flew to Spain and sat in the kitchen of Luis Enrique, as fans have reported. It matters that I get to know the fiance of Thiago Almada. That stuff's important, and people forget that in football. Many owners have forgotten that. You saw, I don't know, this Fortaleza game where I finally realized on the field that night why I had been brought to Brazil, that these people, not just at Botafogo, but in Brazil, and this law, the SAF law, and me, the gringo, like, I realized that's why I was there, to show this to the world. And that's why I was so happy for Brazil. This is the very first thing I talked about when we beat PSG. It wasn't about Botafogo. I said, this is so good for Brazil, right? So I just think that I was put in this moment for a reason, and I did not know how big of a club Botafogo was. I mean, I did in terms of scale and history, but I didn't know spiritually, right? I didn't know that so many Flamengo fans were born from parents who were Botafogo fans, I didn't know other than Pele, the history of Santos, or Garrincha and Botafogo. Like, I didn't know that stuff when he reached out to me on LinkedIn. I just thought it's a big club. It's a big opportunity. But I didn't realize till that night in Fortaleza, in Brazil, but playing Fortaleza, that's kind of when it hit me that I was in something that was much more special and it required more of my effort and my heart. And that's why it's very different than what I have in France or England or Belgium. It's just very, very different. It was an embarrassing moment of crying on national television, but I thought the woman was a radio person. I didn't know there was a camera. Yeah, I don't just cry, like for no reason. Like, but something about all of that just really moved me. My journey in football that had started back in 2005. And I was starting an academy to help South American kids that are here in the United States with without immigration papers, to help them use their football to get into university. And I ran that academy as a side project from 2005 to 2012. And then I had a business failure in 2012. I mean, I think the thing I did not understand, like my business failure in 2012 was very embarrassing. But I relied on this quote from the legendary basketball coach, John Wooden. And he said, reputation is who people think you are, and character is who you really are. And I got through some very humiliating times in 2012 where I knew I did good things. I built a good business. I was honest. We have these battles in corporate America that sometimes you lose. People are only about money in this context. And so I lost that battle in 2012. It was embarrassing, but I knew that I was a good person. I knew that I had done the right things, and I knew I had built a valuable business. So that gave me really thick skin, because it was a high profile business. So when it succeeds, everybody wants to be your friend. When it fails, you're all over television. Everybody is so happy to see somebody go down, right? That's the way we're built in this world. So I think I was uniquely qualified without knowing it. I think God picked me for a reason to be at Botafogo, because I don't care about what people think if it's not based on fact. I think that all the time, because I grew up with extreme attention deficit disorder, and you can be very myopic and have blinders on, and you're like a dog chasing a bone. All you see is the bone. You don't see the car that's going to run you over chasing the bone, right? I've been that way my whole life, and most of the time it served me well. So, I think ultimately Layla and I found peace. At Ronaldo, we started seeing each other largely because of all these trophies we were collecting. I kept having to shake his hand in front of people. So when you're wrong, you got to be humble about it. You have to own it. You have to apologize. I came out way too hot on Palmeiras because of that particular game, right? And it wasn't an act against Palmeiras, but it comes off that way. And so ultimately, there's quiet time. And Tyro was very good at reaching out to Layla, communicating on my behalf and getting us together. And then, honestly, Botafogo fans don't want to hear this, but we're sitting in the same box in the Club World Cup, and this was the most tense game. We were not playing the way we should play. We were playing on our heels. It bothered me. I was angry. I wanted to take it forward on the front foot. I wanted to beat Palmeiras. But we're in this game, and as upset as I am about the way we're playing, I also knew this was a tense moment for Layla. And even before they scored their goal, we were looking at each other and waving and smiling. And I say, "Hey, how you doing, Layla?" In the most tense moment of the game, we were talking. And so people are still human beings. And she got the better of us that day. We gave each other a great hug, and I believe it was genuine,